Today we want to understand and reflect on the day in Jesus' life, which has come to be known as Maundy Thursday. The word Maundy is from the Latin word for mandate and refers to the new commandment that Jesus shared with his disciples during their Last Supper together. This day, known as Maundy Thursday, is significant for the timeline of events which occurred over the course of these 24 hours. At the start of this day, Jesus sent his disciples, Peter and John, to make the necessary preparations for their traditional celebration of the Passover meal. This was a significant religious and historical practice then and remains so today. If you've never had the opportunity to participate in partaking of the Passover meal, I would encourage you to do so as a means of understanding the fullness of Jesus' sacrifice. Then after sunset, we find Jesus and the disciples sharing this Passover meal as their Last Supper together. It is during this time that Jesus institutes two more traditions, which we now refer to as foot washing and communion. Again, these practices are filled with both religious and historical meaning for today. My introduction to faith came in the Brethren denomination, which included the practice of foot washing among our community of believers. As a child, I did not understand the significance of this practice, but I did recognize that it held a place of reverence in the lives of those whom I watched practice this action. And I can easily recall foot washing experiences that I've shared with others as an adult, because this practice inspires a profound sense of humility between those participating, which is exactly what Jesus said it should do. And then, of course, there is the familiar practice of communion, but how often do we recall in our regular taking of communion that we are joining with all the saints throughout the generations to honor Jesus through this act? And if this were not enough to fill a day in the life of Jesus, on Maundy Thursday, we also remember that Jesus went out from this Passover celebration to the Garden of Gethsemane. This is the place where Jesus prayed earnestly to God to spare him the suffering of the coming wrath of God upon him. Ultimately, Jesus surrendered fully to doing the will of God. This is also the place where Judas betrayed Jesus, leading to Jesus' arrest and initiating the sequence of events which took place on Good Friday. So, what does all this history and tradition mean for us today? The words and actions of Jesus are quite sufficient to illuminate this for us. Regarding the new commandment, Jesus said, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I've loved you, you are to love one another." Regarding the practice of foot washing, Jesus said, "What I'm doing you do not realize right now, but you will understand later. You call me teacher and Lord, and you're correct, for so I am. So if I, the Lord and teacher, washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example so that you also would do what I did for you. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." Then regarding the practice of communion, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." Finally, regarding the example of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus said, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you." So now let us be changed by these words and examples of Jesus. Let us be loving towards others in the same way that Jesus has loved us. Let us serve others with deep humility and practicality. as Jesus has done for us. Let us be thankful in remembering the suffering and sacrifice of Jesus, providing our eternal relationship with God, and let us communicate our deepest desires with God while still being willing to surrender to His will and plan for our life. Now, God our Father, may all of this be true in our lives to honor and glorify You always.